I'm Nicholas Penrake, and you're listening to A Trader's Life, the podcast where I get to talk to successful traders about their approach to trading, how they started out and went from broke or breaking even to pulling in thousands of dollars a week. Trading is a tough game. They say only around 5% of those who try actually make a profit. Join me for A Trader's Life to glean some valuable insights from the market wizards I get to talk to. For episode 17, I got together with Sylvia Marshall, author of Zero to a Million and founder of the trading mentorship program of the same name. Sylvia started out as an international training and consultancy manager in the financial sector. She later turned her hand to property development, and when that wasn't enough to keep her busy, she took a crack at trading, loved it, and became very good at it. My key takeout from our conversation was just how committed Sylvia is to helping people, especially women over 40, turn their lives around through trading the markets. Besides her smart proprietary software, she manages to do this through dedicated one-to-ones with her students and a disciplined approach, trading trends. Here's our conversation. How's it going?
Hello, Nick. Good to speak to you.
Yeah, well, welcome to the show. So, I came across you in the context of trading, and that's, of course, what we're about. But I realised that you're quite an entrepreneur generally. You've even written books on business. You have also columns in newspapers. How did you actually get to trading? At what point?
For me, trading is simply another business. You know, I think it's so important if you're trading that you need to run that as a business. And for me, it really is just another business. I've been trading really as long as I can remember, but initially just some company stocks, and then really it grew from there.
Yeah, okay. So when you say company stocks, does that mean you were in a business and sort of therefore had some insight into how the stock market works?
No, the company that I worked for used to give you some stock as an annual bonus, and
Okay.
they were the first shares I ever owned, really.
Yeah.
And then it grew from there to buying an odd share, but I certainly wasn't a prolific investor or anything. And then I started trading. So no, I've never been an institutional trader, Nick.
Yeah, yeah. And so you started trading stocks, given that you already held some. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. But really, stocks, FX, and commodities all at the same time. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things that's so important as a trend follower is if it's trending, I trade it. I don't necessarily care what it is particularly. And that way you cast your net wide and get the best of the market.
No, it makes sense. So when you did start trading and you started to identify trends and so on, did you gravitate? Well, how did you prepare yourself for the the day's trading? I mean, were you dotting around from forex to stocks to commodities and so on, just looking for that trend that was a strong trend and that you could get on it?
Yeah, I mean, really, I trade today the same as I traded then. You know, the
Yeah,
first thing that I'll do is I'll do my homework, if you like, on the weekend when the market's closed. So at that point, I'll do my research. I'll look for the trending stocks or the trends, whatever it may be. Create my watch list. So then during the week, I literally log on for half an hour a day just before market close and either execute the trades or not. But my watch list is there and formed at the weekend of the trends that are interesting.
yeah. Okay. What does your homework consist of generally? Let's take stocks to begin with, perhaps.
Yeah, literally going through. I mean, we're very fortunate in that we have the software that does some of the legwork for us, and brings down a smaller list in accordance with the parameters that we set. And then from that list, I go through manually and select the stocks of interest. So I probably go through a couple of thousand stocks.
Oh wow, yeah. So yeah, your software grinds that down to a more manageable number, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what are you looking for? Sort of evidence of a possible breakout that week?
Looking for a trend, not even necessarily a breakout. Really, what I'm looking for is a trend. The more linear a trend is, the better the trend actually is. You know, you don't want any horrific pullbacks if you can help it. Obviously, you will have pullbacks. That's a natural part of trading. and we do want those pullbacks, but really the length of them, the depth of them, these are all considerations as to whether it will be a good trend or not.
And so, what recently has attracted your eye in terms of stocks?
Well, I think in this past year, my sort of favourite child, if you like, has to be Nasdaq. You know,
Yeah,
we had over the last year it achieved 43%. So really, if you only traded Nasdaq, you still would have made good money. We obviously had the USD pairs with the weak dollar, with things coming in there. Um,
yeah,
we've got some commodities that are faring as well. Things like soya bean again
yeah. They're rocketing, aren't
have
they?
been nicely trending. So across the board, really.
Yeah, yeah. I was talking to a trader only yesterday who thought that China was buying all these soybeans and other foods in a sort of bid to stockpile in case we have food shortages
Oh right,
as a result of the pandemic. That was an interesting theory.
it is.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's also it's a good reason for avoiding the fundamentals as well. If the chart doesn't tell me, then I don't really listen.
Okay, so you're very technical, are you, with your
Yeah, literally.
powertrain?
I
Yeah,
don't trade the news. I don't listen to the news. I rely on price action to tell me the story.
yeah. And are you looking at volume as well when you?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I'll consider volume, but it's not one of the major drivers.
Okay, yeah. And so your software, what does that do when it picks out, you know, your short list? What's
Yeah.
it looking for? What are the criteria, if you like?
Now that would be telling, Nick, wouldn't it?
Very broadly, then.
If you wanna know that, you need to join us.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, but
Yeah,
basically what we're looking for are, as I say, those linear trends, and then once we have those, it's a question of applying our rules, and so the software gives us all the information we need to actually apply those rules.
I thought it was interesting that you have this group for women over 40. You know, it's quite narrow, isn't it? But very commendable sort of idea, really, to help women trade. And I mean, there are obviously not that many women who do trade as a comparison with men. And I think you said on the phone that sometimes women over 40 are a little bit more vulnerable, perhaps, to
Yes,
believing,
certainly.
you know, shady gurus, if you like.
Absolutely. I mean, the Zero to a Million Club was never set up as a business, and it will probably never turn a profit. We've invested so much into the software that we give our members. It would be a good while before we recoup those costs. But I set it up literally because more and more women were speaking to me that had gone on these dubious courses. Um,
Yeah,
they'd spent ridiculous amounts of money on the course and put
yeah,
ridiculous amounts of money into a trading account and lost the lot.
yeah.
And there seemed to be a very deliberate target market of women over 40.
Right.
And so
Mm.
that's really how it began. It began with a handful of people who really had been conned,
Yeah.
and grew from there. And then a couple of years ago, we had a request, really from some boys who said, "This isn't fair. We want to join."
Yeah,
And so we did, a one-off group for the guys.
yeah. Do they have to
Um,
be over 40 as well?
no, no, we didn't stipulate, but strangely enough, they all are.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
I think it's quite interesting. I talk to a lot of younger traders, and the risk profile does change as you get older. There's no two ways about that. So, the sort of 19-year-old that wants to scalp all day long is is not really someone that would make for a good trend follower, you know. So really you kind of need to be in the mindset of patience, and understanding that, trading is about winning and losing. You just need to win more often than you lose. So now we have a group of the Zero to a Million girls and the Zero to a Million boys, as they've all decided to dub themselves.
okay. Yeah. Are they allowed to mix now and then?
No, we actually run them separately, and that's very interesting because
Okay. Yeah.
we all trade exactly the same system, but men
Mm.
and women actually trade very differently.
Yeah. No, I think
You
that's
know,
true.
if you look
Yeah.
at it, what you have, the women really need encouragement to press the button, if you like,
Okay.
whereas the guys need to be encouraged not to press the button.
Yeah,
You know,
it's very
you know,
interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
there's
We're more impulsive, aren't we,
yeah,
men?
there's a very it's not that one's better than the other. It's just different. And so
Yeah.
it's important that you train to those differences.
So I suppose you've had a bit of an insight into the male mindset then, teaching men and
Absolutely, yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's great fun. I absolutely love what I do, and more importantly, we've got a bunch of men and women now who are successful traders in their own right.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
satisfaction of that, you can't buy that.
No, sure. And how long does it normally take to take, say, a promising beginner, to, start to make consistent profit? Is it a
Yeah,
year, 6 months?
no, the program is a year in length.
Yeah,
Because it's absolutely ridiculous to assume that you can be a competent trader in anything less than that, to be honest.
yeah,
Where we come into our own, there's the initial foundation training, but then really it's all about one-to-one hand-holding as they place the trades, because I see every trade that they place, because within that year, they're trading my money as well. And so we actually follow everything that they do, and it's very much, coaching the old-fashioned way, sitting next
yeah,
to Nelly,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
um, and that works. You're not gonna learn how to trade from a couple of days in a training room. That's
yeah,
simply
yeah,
not
no,
how it
sure.
works, which is why it's a year in length. Now, not everyone is making good profits at the end of the year, but by the end of the year, everyone is in profit.
So how early in the course do they start trading with your money, as you
Yeah,
described?
as
Yeah,
soon as they show that they're competent in pressing the right buttons.
right.
The crazy thing is about trading, and I think we all go through it to say, I would never do that, and people do. But initially they start on a paper account to find their way around the software, make sure they press the right buttons, and also learn to follow the rules. And
Yeah.
as soon as someone can follow the rules, then they go to a live account.
So when you say trend, so are we looking at the higher time frames, the 4 hours and the dailies?
We trade the higher time frames, and we trade nothing lower than the daily chart. And basically that means you literally log on half an hour a day at the end of day. So it works for people that have got a day job, maybe running their own business, whatever it may be.
Okay, good. And the classes, they're like, an hour or so, or longer when you get together?
Yeah, pre-COVID, we started off with we have a 2-day course. And then we meet as a group once a month, and then there's the one-to-one sessions with me. But now our 2 days is online, and we do that in bite-sized chunks, really, that are arranged between me and the individual. And that might be an hour at a time, it might be 2 hours at a time, because again, people's capacity for Zoom or whatever varies, and there's no point, trying to train someone when they've already fallen asleep, so
Yeah, yeah,
it's very
okay.
important
And is it
to.
it's one to one, is it?
Yeah, very much one to
Yeah,
one. Everything we do is one to one, trading is bespoke,
yeah. And I guess every year you're having to keep the numbers manageable, obviously, if it's one to one. So you're how many do you have in the girls group, for
Oh,
instance?
we're very, very limited. We probably take half a dozen boys and half a dozen girls a year.
Yeah,
Uh, no more than that, because I want to invest in people and make them successful. I'm not interested in having had 2,000 bums on seats. I'm
yeah,
more interested in how many successful traders we grow. Uh,
yeah. No, it's
so
great.
so
Yeah,
really, a very small number,
yeah,
um, every year, and unfortunately, that means some people are disappointed, because we probably accept about 1 in 4 people that want to join us.
yeah,
Because again, if I don't think someone is gonna make it. I don't wanna waste their money or waste my time.
Yeah. 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 Let's go back a little bit, because I'm intrigued by your background in business and DIY and redoing houses and so on. So what is your background?
Yeah,
Sketch that in for us.
it's very varied actually. I mean, basically, my main career job was as a trainer. So I trained people working in the financial sector. I had a management consultancy in that sector for a large number of years, and then I retired and I hated it. So then Cozy Homes was born basically out of an interest with restoration and renovation. And obviously, I had my speaking engagements as well, which is another company. And I've just kept those going really, alongside of my trading, of course.
And so what was your financial training originally? Were you sort of from an accountancy background or something else
No,
similar?
not at all.
No,
I
no.
was from a life and pensions background,
Yeah,
so it was training people really on everything from regulation to product to sales, and
yeah,
then very much on a strategic level of how to build sales forces and things like that, on the distribution side.
yeah, yeah. And when did you set up your trading training? When was that?
Well, in terms of the 0 to 1 million club, that would have been, oh God, I need to think, about 5 years ago now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere around. I ought to know that, didn't I? It's about 5 years ago.
Yeah. And how much does it cost, someone to join if they're accepted on the course?
It's £10,000 for the year, and that includes, I think, quite importantly, it includes all the software. Because quite often people go for trade go for training, and then you find, oh, and by the way, you need to pay £300 a month for the software, and you need to pay this, you need to pay that. Once you've paid your £10,000, the software's yours. If you decide to leave us after the year, you take the software with you. So you have everything you need within that 10,000 to
Yeah.
become a
Yeah.
profitable trader.
Yeah. And do some of your students, if you like, carry on into the second and third and fourth year?
Most people tend not to leave us. The idea originally was at the end of the 12 months, you go and do your thing because you're fully competent, and in all honesty, you don't need me. But most people have stayed on for the benefits of the club, in that we do have the monthly meetings, that we do constantly bring out new tweaks with the software and things like that. So I'd say probably about 95% of the people remain with us.
When you trade stocks, are you trading simply stocks like, buying shares rather than options?
Yeah. Really, when we trade stocks, we start people off on trading the indices, because obviously with a basket of stocks, that's much less risk oriented than if you have an individual stock.
Yeah.
And people move on to individual stocks as well. So we're actually trading individual stocks, often as a CFD, dependent on someone's funds and what they have. But really, we don't bother with options or anything like that.
Yeah, they're quite complex, aren't they? There's a bit of a
Yeah,
learning curve for that. Yeah, and all different kinds of variants of puts and all put spread and so on.
yeah,
Just getting
we
my
keep
head around
things
it myself.
yeah, we keep things simple,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's the art to good trading, really. The more complicated you make it, the easier it is to make a mistake.
in the last, say, 6 months, what sorts of pairs are you looking at, on Forex if you trade on Forex with the group?
Well, it's been largely the USD, because the USD has been weak.
Yeah,
We've seen quite a lot of activity on the Aussie as well. So again, so long as it's trending, we're interested.
yeah,
If it isn't trending, we're not. And I think that's so important. You need to cast that net wide, not tie yourself just into FX or tie yourself just into stock. What you want is the best of the market, whatever it may be. So I talk to a lot of people who might say, I trade the majors. Well, obviously, that makes perfect sense in terms of liquidity and everything else, but how much of the market you're actually closing yourself off from? How many
Yeah,
opportunities you're closing yourself off from? So literally, if it's trending, we trade it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And how long do you tend to run your trades? I mean, obviously that depends on how long a trend lasts, but I suppose what I'm trying to get to is it like days, or even you might go as far as weeks?
Yeah, and as far as months,
Yeah,
you know,
interesting. Yeah, quite long
the
term.
the aim really is to stay in the trend as long as you possibly can, and that's not by not by being ridiculous in not having a stop or something like that, you know.
Yeah, trailing stock.
Obviously
Yeah.
obviously we have our stop losses, but the aim is to stay in the trend as long as you possibly can.
Can you give me an example of a good one that you've had recently,
Nasdaq,
for the group? Yeah, okay, Nasdaq, and anything in Forex that has worked out well?
the USD pairs that have
Okay, all
been
the pairs, yeah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that have been on a downward slope.
Yeah, do you see that going still further down?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, fair enough.
predicting the market doesn't work.
Yeah.
So,
No, no, no.
I literally, if the chart tells me it's going down, then I'll be short. If the chart tells me it's going up, I'll be long. If the chart says nothing at all, I'll stand aside.
And when you first started trading, did you have quite a lot of setbacks at the beginning and wonder if it was perhaps a bad idea, or were you fairly encouraged by results early on?
No, I mean, I think like everybody else, you make some horrendous mistakes,
Yeah.
and from that you set some rules. I'll never trade on a mobile, for example.
Yeah,
Because
no, sure,
it's
it's
too
too
easy to add an extra digit or,
yeah,
whatever, or be doing it as you run for a train, which is no way to trade, you know. So yeah, there are mistakes of, an over trading. I think over time, the amount I trade has become smaller and smaller.
oh, interesting, okay,
You know,
yeah,
so instead of any old trend, I really do look for absolutely the best trends. When people start with us, their watch list is huge. They're trading there's quite a significant number, and over time that diminishes. So you end up with a higher success rate on
yeah,
on trades, but less of them. Obviously there are losing trades, and I can't emphasize that enough. Losing is a natural part of trading, but for us, a good trade is one that follows the rules. Whether it wins or loses is inconsequential. We actually manage our trades on the way through to make sure that our stops are positioned such that if it does have a turn down, we'll have already locked in significant profits. And that's all about risk management. You know, as I've said to you before, a reasonable trader with good risk management will be a good trader. An excellent trader with poor risk management will go bust.
yeah,
So we put a lot of emphasis on risk management, how to manage your trades, and also how to stand aside, because it's very difficult to look at a market and think, I'm not going in it, you know.
mm,
And that's something that over the course of that year people learn, and it's quite a psychological shift to actually learn that choosing not to take a position is actually a position,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
cash is a
and that
position, as they
takes a
say.
while to set your mindset to that.
On stocks, would you at any point take, like a small handful on tech and then something quite different, so that if there's any kind of rotation, you might at least be on the up with the other kind of stock,
Yeah,
or
I
or
mean,
or even commodity?
yeah, you need diversification. For
Mm,
example, as we said, the dollar was weak, so you could have actually taken something on every dollar pair, but you wouldn't because you don't wanna be so deep in just on one thing, as you say, that
yeah,
if that falls over, it kills your account. So, yeah, diversification is important, but more important than that is what's trending. The software that we use is proprietary software, so obviously it's been created by us. It was created by me because it's what I learned to trade, but we're certainly not overwhelmed with indicators. You see some charts and people can barely see the price
Oh, I
actions.
know, yeah.
We're very careful not to do that. So it's our proprietary software and that's it.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the software is also kind of indicating areas where you might enter a trade,
The software literally gives us the trends
almost like
and
a signal. Yeah.
gives us the tools that we need to see the information that we need to make a good trading decision. We allow our management to do that. So our stops will move in line with the trade, in line with our strategy, and then the stops will take us out. And by being a systematic trader like that, you're never faced with that decision of shall I close the trade, shall I not? So really, we kind of make life easy that you don't have to make any of those difficult decisions.
Yeah, you just keep trailing the
Your
stock. Mm.
strategy does it for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? A lot of people do, the scalping or short-term trades, but to me, of course, you can get very good at it, but it is always higher risk, isn't it, than the kind of strategy you're following?
Yeah, the longer the time frame, the less noise.
Yeah.
A lot of our members trade the weekly chart. Once they're established, they tend to trade the weekly, and some even trade the monthly. Uh,
Yeah.
but obviously, the higher the time frame you trade, the deeper the pockets you need to enable you to do that. So, but certainly, I think I'd have a nervous breakdown trying to trade on a minute chart. I don't know how people do that.
Yeah, or 15, yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, day trading is definitely not my bag. Hats off to day traders that make good money doing it, but you don't tend to meet too many in the retail space that are actually doing that.
And quite a few of them turn to high leverage accounts, which, again, is gonna whack up
Absolutely,
your risk as well. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Leverage is a double-edged sword. It's
yeah,
good, so long as you use it as it's meant to be used. But unfortunately, very few people do.
yeah, that's true. Yeah. When you said prior to COVID, you were meeting the group, are you in London as a base?
We all our training was held at the Institute of Directors in London. People travel from far and wide. We have people joining us from Wales, from the north of England, from Scotland. Even for a while, we had a couple of international people as well. So people travel.
Yeah, well, one day they will travel again. It's just gonna
Yeah,
take a while, isn't it? Yeah.
and certainly, we're finding that now that we're holding things online, we are also attracting more international members, which is interesting as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, sure. And so how's the, next few weeks looking? Are you developing the course in any way or taking on new people?
We've got a couple of new people with us at the moment, so obviously, at the start, their one-to-ones are more intensive, but then obviously there's the coaching with all the existing people. So so yeah, the weeks are fairly full, and the markets are livening up as well, which gives us a lot more opportunity, which is nice.
Yeah.
Last year was not an easy trading year, no matter what anybody says. Um,
Yeah.
but nonetheless, it was a profitable year. But this year, I think will be, well, I hope will be an easier year in terms of trading. It
Yeah,
certainly
no, I
those
think it
more
will be. Yeah.
more opportunities coming along.
Yeah, and we won't have, President Trump, tweeting away, will we? So that'll so spare us some volatility.
Ah,
Yeah.
good reason just to stick to the charts.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah, yeah. But, I remember seeing, somebody, stepping outside Wall Street when he heard that Biden had won, and he said, "Well, at least we won't have to put up with those tweets anymore." You know? So, yeah, it's quite amusing. But yeah. So, yeah, you've got these new people, and do you have an assistant with you working, managing some of your even if it's your, you know, admin side of things? Because there must be quite a lot to do with promoting and sorting and emailing and videos and what have you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a support staff that help us out, but No, I've always said since the club started, the mentoring will be me, full stop, because it is a very personal thing, and I know the quality of the service that we provide, and I wouldn't want to outsource that to anybody else because
Yeah.
it is very personal. If
Mm.
people put their faith in me, then I put my faith in them, and I want to deliver profitable trading. You
Yeah.
um,
Well, it's nice to
so
hear
it,
some
yeah,
heartfelt words. I
It
can
it
tell
it's
you.
very strange really in that I don't regard it as a business at all, but even if it were a business, I think above everything, there has to be ethics and transparency. It's such a dodgy world actually, you see all these trading things out there, and as you found me on LinkedIn, and, forever there are all these people posting results that if you know
Yeah.
anything about trading, you know are absolute rubbish.
Yeah, yeah.
And
The
you
young
just
guys
think,
stepping
"Oh
out of
dear."
Lamborghinis and all sorts of
Yeah,
nonsense.
there's
Yeah.
always a Lamborghini and a helicopter and
Yeah. Yeah.
Lord knows what else, and it's just no, people don't fall for this. In
Yeah.
the same way as we say to people, a reasonable aim each year is 20%,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people go, "Oh, why only 20%?" Well, we may well make 100%, but we're aiming at 20.
Yeah. More realistic. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's realistic.
And have some of your traders gone on to be, really consistently very successful, and do you keep in touch with them and sort of get an
Oh
idea?
god, yeah,
Yeah.
the vast majority,
Yeah.
I'm just going through everyone in my mind, all but 2 regularly
That's very
achieve.
high, in my
No, they
experience too.
regularly achieve over 20% every year.
Yeah.
Some
Well,
people have been with us 5 years now, and they're doing that.
yeah. Well, I'm sure this one-to-one makes a huge difference, because, when I sometimes talk to other people who are teaching, they don't have that high ratio of success.
No,
Um,
certainly, it's a very personal thing, and, you know, people make their own with our help, they make their own trading plan, which takes into account their personal attitude to risks, their life. There's no point in saying to people, your trade last thing at night if work or family responsibilities or whatever don't allow them to do that,
yeah,
or
yeah,
so it's very much it's not you know it's not a one size fits all at all.
yeah.
So if it's not bespoke, it just doesn't work.
Yeah. And have you found it a little easier to, run the course with your members on account of COVID and the work from home situation we're all in? Pretty most of us anyway.
No, it's
Okay.
certainly it's a lot easier face to face, I think.
Ah, interesting.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
because without doubt, people's attention span on a laptop or desktop is less than in a face to face environment. So
Yeah.
you need to make sure it really is bite-sized chunks. Um, so it's more
Yeah.
little and often,
Yeah.
than maybe a day's training or whatever. You couldn't do a day online.
Yeah,
Uh,
no, it's a bit grueling, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah,
Mm. Um,
certainly, and I think also, death by PowerPoint is not how you learn to
yeah.
trade.
Yeah. So
Um,
when you teach, will you, do a sort of live demo trading session, as well as, just taking somebody through.
oh, absolutely, yeah. People place their first live trade during their training.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay. Yeah.
um, because it's all part of it. So, and by seeing every trade that everyone places, it's very easy to just pick up the phone and say, "Let's talk about that trade."
Yeah. Yeah. And
You
so
know,
when people do hit, say, a losing streak, have a few setbacks, or not even setbacks that you would perhaps be worried about, but they're new to the game, and it's all a bit, too much. Do you sort of find yourself stepping in almost like a sort of counselor to try and get people over the difficulties that all that emotion brings?
yeah, very very much so.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I say, I've been coaching people for 40 years now, so,
Mm.
that coaching element is so, so important,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
is that one-to-one attention,
Yeah.
and I sort of see it as a performance coach, as a shoulder to cry on, as a it's all things really. You are literally there living the experience with them and making it okay.
Sounds good to me. Well, I think on that note, we should round it up, Sylvia. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Lovely to talk to you, Nick. Thank you.
Where should people find you?
If they pop onto our website, 0 to a million club.com or .co.uk, they'll find out all about us. If they want to know more, they can just drop a line on there, which comes through to me directly, and I'll always get back to them personally.
Sounds good to me. Thanks very much.
Thanks then, Nick. Bye for now.
I was talking just then with Sylvia Marshall, entrepreneur, author, and trading mentor to boys and girls, mostly over 40. Just before you go, as you probably know, new podcasts are like little leafy shoots. They need plenty of tender, loving care. So if you're enjoying the podcast so far, please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/penrakespodcasts. Thanks.